Futures joining us this morning. And then as always with the webinar, after maybe a short break, we'll have an opportunity to share a bit of best practice and things like that. But before we jump into anything too kind of heavy, just a bit of housekeeping. It's just to let everyone know that today's session is being recorded and is being live streamed onto Facebook, etc. So if you would prefer, obviously, not to be on camera, then feel free to leave your cameras off. But if you don't mind, then it's great to see everyone. So feel free to leave your cameras on. With regards to mics, if possible, it's great to leave everyone on mute unless you're asking questions. And once we get to the sort of discussion section at the end, then obviously we can jump off onto mics and we can hear everyone speak. But during the kind of presentations in particular, if you could leave your mics off so we don't get any kind of background noise. Obviously, we've got the chat bar, and colleagues of mine, Jenny and Charlie, will be helping manage questions coming in through the chat bar. So again, when we get to the discussion point, then you'll have that opportunity to ask those questions. And yeah.
Oh, I think we possibly might have lost Greg, have we? Is everybody, have we lost Greg? Have we? Oh dear. Let's see if he arrives back on screen in a minute. Olivia, would you have a copy of Greg's presentation there at all by to hand? And maybe I can just carry on until Greg rejoins us. Thank you. Morning, everybody. I'm Jennifer Jenkins. I also work with Greg and the Wellbeing team on Wellbeing at Work. And until Greg manages to come back on, I'll go with his presentation. Yes, welcome everybody. And today we have got a guest speaker, Koreen Samuel, who is going to speak to us about what Able Futures can provide free for businesses. But before that, we'll just run through an update on what we're doing within Wellbeing at Work. I'll have to say next slide. Obviously, I'm not Greg, I'm Jenny Jenkins, so I work within the Wellbeing at Work team and I work on the awards. So in terms of our awards, we are delighted to announce, oh, Greg's back with us. I think so. I'll just pass it. I'll just do the update on the awards. So next slide, please. So congratulations to Pushed, who are our first micro business to be awarded bronze, and we're delighted to be able to award them bronze. As I say, it's our first micro business, and well done to Pushed for achieving bronze. And next slide, please. And also just in terms of the awards, we'd just like to say that the Devon and Plymouth Chamber Awards have just recently been held within the last week. And so the winner was St Luke's Hospice in Plymouth. So well done in terms of the Workplace Wellbeing awarded. And the Bailey Partnership, who we work with and who have achieved bronze with us, also came out with a highly commended award. And City College Plymouth, who are beginning their journey with us in terms of wellbeing, and the Plymouth Marine Laboratory. So we just wanted to celebrate their successes with the Chamber. And Greg, are you back with us?
I am. Bless you all. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. Don't worry.
I promised I wasn't talking to myself for about a couple of minutes until I realised I promised I wasn't. So, but no, thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Olivia, for kind of taking over there. Yes, it was all going so well. I was about to say if there's any connection issues, then this will happen. But obviously it beat me to it. But let me see. Are you still screen sharing, Olivia, or do you want me to jump in and?
No, I've come away from it.
Bless you. Let me jump in there again then and see if I can get back to where we were. But thank you, Jenny, for filling in my absence. I think you would obviously been working through the presentation, and thank you everyone for your patience there. Luckily, we do have a backup plan, so that's always good. Right, so I presume you've probably already gone through the first few slides of these. So thank you, Jenny, again for doing those. And I think I came in where, yeah, we were having a little bit of a sort of a review of the Devon and Plymouth Chamber Awards the other night, and well done to all those winners around the Wellbeing Workplace Wellbeing Awards. So yeah, up next was just a quick update on September, and a bit of a thanks to anyone that took part in September last month. For those of you that maybe aren't familiar with September, it's just a challenge we do every September around people getting more active and getting their steps up. It was a little bit different this year. In the past, it's been all about walking, but this year we wanted to sort of make it a little bit more inclusive and basically allow people to do any sort of activity. And we worked in partnership with obviously Active Devon, and they worked in partnership with Buddy Boost, which was sort of like a new app to us that would track the activity people were doing. And it was just all about being active for 26 minutes every day of the month, if possible. And there'll be some information coming out in the next few weeks with regards to the results of September and the prizes for those individuals that were sort of the most motivating, both for themselves, but also for other people that were taking part in the challenge. But a big thanks to all the organizations that took part in that challenge and all the individuals. I think we had over 40 businesses take part, and I think it was well over 400 individuals within those businesses as well. So a real success, and it'd be something that we always look to continue and do every year. Next bit, just a bit of information about a few campaigns coming up in the coming months. You, Megan, may or may not have heard of this campaign around domestic violence called 16 Days of Action. Runs from the 25th of November through to the 10th of December. And it's something that we're just asking all of our businesses and individuals within those businesses to get behind and to promote and to basically make a pledge to support it. All the information you need and the toolkit is available on that link within the presentation. And Jenny may have already mentioned, but obviously all the presentations with those links will be sent out to everyone after the session today. A bit of an update on wellbeing training. So this is something that supports obviously our Wellbeing at Work offer. We've got lots of wellbeing based training that's available, through our training team. We've recently launched, and you again may have seen this before, our kind of training pyramid to give people a bit of a better idea of the different offers we've got, but also the level of that training. So anything you see down in the introductory area is generally quite low level, generally applicable to most people. And then the further up the pyramid you go, the sort of more intensive and the more specialist the training becomes, and potentially it might not be as applicable to as many people. But as always, if you want more information, just get in contact with the team and we can let you know kind of what's coming up. We're currently, in the next few weeks anyway, be putting a bit of a plan together for the training we'll be providing next year. I know, scary, we're talking about 2022 already, but it really isn't that far away, is it? So again, lots of training offers, just get in contact with the team and we can give you a bit more information. Related to that, we are quite busy in the training area. So when you do get in touch, and if you're looking to access any of our training sessions, please be aware that sometimes we're not able to sort of provide the training as quickly as we might like. We are able to hopefully give you dates and at least the things are coming up. Related to that, again, we've obviously got our new Wellbeing Champions training cohorts. Again, most of you on the call probably are either aware of, or you may well be a Wellbeing Champion. And over the last sort of 3 to 6 months, myself and Charlie and Nita and now Ali within the team have kind of been developing a new Wellbeing Champion offer. And I guess most of that is around additional training as part of that Wellbeing Champion support. So in the past, you'd be getting Wellbeing Champions training and MEC, but we're now adding emotional resilience and also Connect 5 session 1 to that offer. So again, it's sort of more of a comprehensive offer, which then people would potentially link into those more advanced training offers once they've done that. But like I said before, please be aware that obviously we are kind of rather busy with those sorts of things at the moment. And we're also looking to try and develop our community Wellbeing Champions program, which would be very similar to what we run within organizations, but looking to sort of replicate that network across the communities of Plymouth as well. So exciting stuff. And again, if you need more information, just get in touch with the team. So the last few bits from me before I pass across to Koreen, just a few future dates for the diary. There's a couple of things this month with regards to awareness days. We've got Mental Health Awareness Day this Sunday, the 10th of October. It might be, obviously, if it falls on a non-working day for most people within your organizations, perhaps you could do something to celebrate and sort of raise awareness of that day sort of the following week. I know within our organization, we're hoping to do something sort of towards the end of the week this week. One of our wellbeing champions within Live Well Southwest came up with the idea of having a communicate break. One of the things that was coming back from our team was that maybe challenge around connecting with colleagues, you know, especially if people are working from home, etc. So and everyone likes cake, I guess. So she came up with the little catchphrase as communicate break, and I think we're going to be trying to just set aside some time for people within our own organisation to reconnect with some colleagues and maybe share a slice of cake over a 10-15 minute break at some point. Then we've also got World Menopause Day, Monday the 18th of October. Lots of information available on our website, and I know Charlie also sent out some information through our social media channels over the last few days regarding Menopause Day and the information that's available to support that. So again, well worth organisations getting behind that and raising awareness. We're hoping at some point in the future to maybe have some menopause awareness training available, so watch this space for that as well. And then obviously we're in the middle of October, which means we're in the middle of Stoptober. And again, most of you are probably aware of this campaign around helping people quit. And another part of the wellbeing team, our One U Plymouth offer, have got lots of stop smoking support available. So again, if you've got individuals within your workplace that you think might want to quit, or you're looking to raise awareness of Stoptober, which then might lead to people thinking about stopping, get in touch with One U Plymouth, and they've got trained advisors that can help staff to quit and access the stop smoking medications like nicotine replacement therapy, etc. So finally, our next webinar into the new year, 2022 already, we're talking about Wednesday, the 26th of January. Our next focus is going to be around building financial well-being. And we're lucky enough to have Paul Fox coming along, who's going to give us a bit of presentation on that date. Paul might be in the meeting today. I know sometimes he does come along to these meetings, but really looking forward to that one in the new year, and something. You know, we've had a lot of talk of things like financial well-being and that being a challenge going forward off the back of the pandemic. So hopefully some really useful information to get at that next session. And again, the joining link or the link to book on at the bottom of the page there. At the end of the session, like I said, we'll be sending out an email with the evaluation as well as all the slides. And you've got my contact details there as well if you need to get in touch. But time-wise, I think it's time for me to stop talking. Jenny, we wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say there's a couple of questions in the chat bar from Brother Jay. It says, hi, Greg. I looked into the advanced training, but is this funded? And with regards to MEC, the Southwest is not involved in the app. Can this be developed?
Okay, good questions. The advanced training, I suppose, up until this point, we've been working closely with our partners at the Academy, and that sometimes means that it's sort of, I suppose, not funded for everyone to access, and there does tend to be a cost involved. Moving into 2022, we are hoping to sort of, I suppose, work in a slightly different way that may allow us to offer some of those more advanced training packages, either for free for some individuals, or at least at a reduced rate for others. A lot of it would depend upon what areas you're working within. The way we would deliver training, we're commissioned by Plymouth City Council to do it. So sometimes it does depend upon the organisations we're working with and their potential reach for those areas of greatest need across Plymouth. But yeah, if you want to get back into, if you want to drop me an email, we could talk a little bit more. And once we've got those dates set for 2022, we might be able to help you to access those. Regarding MEC, I know that we've just started to deliver it virtually, so we're calling it eMEC, but I don't know anything about the app, unfortunately. I don't know whether anyone else in my team knows much about the MEC app. No, again, I can look into that for you. If you want to drop me an email, and it might be something that I can have a chat with our MEC trainers about and see if we're able to get involved. But no, the MEC app is the first I've heard. So you've stumped me there. So, any other questions in the chat bar at this stage, or are we good? Right, what I will do then is quickly stop sharing, and hopefully, Koreen, are you there?
Hi, can you still hear and see me?
Yeah, we've got you, Koreen. Bless you. So I'd like to introduce you all to Koreen Samuel from Able Futures, who's kindly offered to come along today and talk to you about what Able Futures is and how it may be able to support your organisation. So I will mute myself and stop my video and pass across to Koreen. Welcome, Koreen.
Hi, thank you for having me. So my role at Able Futures is business account manager, and all that means is within the south of the UK. My role is to tell employers that this service exists and to make it as straightforward as possible for business owners and their employees to be able to access it. So I'm going to be running through what the service is and what it isn't, and hopefully by the end, turn you into advocates so that you'll share it with everyone else, and will also know when it's appropriate for you to use it yourself. Before I go ahead and start running through that, I thought I would let you know that I heard about the service when I was working in an HR team. And at the time, I was becoming a little bit obsessed, for want of a better word, with the concept of when someone is or isn't performing. Sounds like a strange thing to be interested in if you know me, but I was managing the talent function. And so my team were encouraged to ask those questions. So what makes you stressed? How might that manifest in you? How do you like to be supported when you're stressed at work, etc.? And I just couldn't unsee, it's not rocket science really, but I couldn't unsee that very often, maybe a couple of years down the line, even for our top performers, those things that were performance issues were very directly the things that they had told us is then when they're stressed. As I say, it's not uncommon for people to think that, but I think the link between how we perform at work and what's going on in our minds is a lot more stark than people think. Anyway, so I heard that the government provides no cost support for people who are in some form of employment. And I thought, how did I not know this? So the things I'm going to tell you today, I'm not going to attempt to teach you about mental health or how important it is. I'm going to give you the things that I would have liked to have done. Okay, so I'm going to share my slides, and when done, I am going to pop these slides in the chat as well. And I always mention to people, please don't think that you need to remember all of this, because not only will you have the slides, but it's employee driven. So when a person reaches out to the service, we tell them these things. Hopefully you can see my screen. Let me know. It doesn't look as nice to me. It doesn't. I can't see the whole screen.
It's working fine for a screen. Yeah.
Yeah, good. And it's the full screen, not the slides visible down the side.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. Can you confirm that it just changed to a white slide for me?
Not as yet. No. I know sometimes it doesn't work straight away, so might be a bit of a delay.
I think I'm on a better screen now. There we go. So as I mentioned, I'm business account manager, and in addition to explaining what the service is to yourself, I will also be able to do that for any employees you have. And even if it's only a small team that you've got, I will make the time to do that, because in my opinion, when you have a look at the poster and it says something on your mind, talk to Able Futures, it doesn't really go into as much detail as I'm going to give you now. So I've got my details on the final slide, and I really would welcome organisations reaching out to me directly so that I can arrange to embed this in your business at no cost. So everything I'm about to speak about, there are no costs to the employee or the employer. Okay, it's funded by the Department of Work and Pensions as part of the Access to Work Mental Health Support Service. As I mentioned, you're not expected to remember all the detail here. So in terms of why the service was funded, there was a review called the Thriving at Work review. I won't give you War and Peace, but you can have a look online if you'd like to look into it in any more detail, or email me and I'll send it to you. A lot of the stuff in that review will not shock you. We all have a mental health, and the stats told us that at least 1 in 4 people will experience a mental health problem each year. Of course, being in the middle of a pandemic can bring with it new and increasing causes of stress. But what's been acknowledged is that the impact of us having those things going on and that playing on our mind at work is more significant than anyone realised. It's to the tune of at least £74 billion per year cost to the economy. And in terms of the employer's bearing the brunt of at least £33 billion per year. And it's not always obvious stuff like absenteeism or presenteeism, when someone is coming into work carrying on regardless, but should actually be off considering why are they anxious and trying to recover. It's not just stuff like that. It's also some of the things that perhaps aren't tangible that happens to us when we're at work, trying to carry on when we've got things playing on our mind. So I'm going to invite just briefly to have if you have ever experienced any of these or noticed these in those that you manage, and then I'm going to explain how we aim to support this. So psychologically, we know that people can experience anxiety, depression, for example. Behaviourally, a behavioural change might be being if you've got a lot going on and perhaps you might be a bit more snappy or have less patience, a change in conduct, or even a person turning on the jolly behaviour to counteract or mask how low they're feeling. That's a behavioural change too. And physically, in addition to the things that you can see there, we might have impacted sleep. If you're up thinking about things, you've not got as much energy, you might not be as on the ball the next day, or even appetite changes, such as eating food for comfort, not eating the right things, or having appetite loss. So these are just some examples, by the way, but they can and will, even for the most resilient of us, impact on how well we do in our jobs. And that's where Able Futures comes in. So I want to mention that the aim of the service is to help people to learn ways to cope so that ultimately they can have a more enjoyable future. And let's face it, we're in work or self-employment for most of the time in our lives. Before I start walking through exactly what it is, I'm just going to mention what the service isn't. So it's not a crisis service. If the person's in a mental health emergency, we don't propose they start with Able Futures right now. And it's not a clinical service. So we're not delivering counselling or a mental health diagnosis. This is practical support. So it's personalised. A mental health professional will work with an individual, no matter what seniority. Able Futures supports people from an apprentice in their first job ever, or someone who has never worked but just has a job offer, right up to managing directors, business owners and senior leaders. So it's got to be tailored and appropriate. So it's tailored to them. For 9 months, the individual works with that mental health professional to understand what's going on for me, what's impacting. And it doesn't have to be work related. It might be that a finance issue is impacting their mental health, or relationship issues are playing on their mind. Whatever it is that's going on, the VRC will support them with that. But the key thing is that the reason it's not just to support the issues that are impacting them, but to build their understanding of how does that manifest at work. Let's build some new skills and coping strategies like muscles. So the mental health professional will provide resources and guidance. They might not deliver it all themselves. If the person, for example, did need counselling, they're going to signpost them to that. Or if they needed to access a therapy, they will help them to get that. But the key thing is identifying exactly what resources is going to be right for them. I mentioned that there's no cost. There's also no mental health diagnosis required. I'm really keen to normalise the use of this support, so you don't have to feel that you're definitely depressed or absolutely anxious. One of the phrases we use quite a lot is if you might be feeling like you're having more bad days than good days, which can be a lot of us sometimes. So I want people to know that if you are experiencing anxiety or depression, yes, you can use the service. You don't have to necessarily be on the brink or have workplace issues, as long as you feel that you could benefit from support to thrive at work. So the service is confidential. I want to be really explicit about that. We don't tell the employer that a person's using the service. We don't tell their GP. A person can ask that mental health professional that they're working with to liaise with their GP. They can give consent, and because they're a mental health professional, they're going to be able to get on the phone and get them that support they need. So it might be counselling. If the person consents, they can liaise with their employer. For example, for 9 months, they're going to be working with this person. So they're going to be in a really good position to understand what's impacting you at work and how can you try to thrive. So they might suggest how the individual asks their employer for an adjustment to support their recovery. But I do want to tell you directly that actually we prefer to be in the background, separate from the employer. We would much prefer to empower that individual to have that conversation themselves and to say, hey boss, I've got this going on. It may impact me in this way. Please can we adjust this part of my role to support me in recovering. We prefer to be in the background. So I know I mentioned that the service is confidential. I hope it's not too much small print for you, but if we felt that someone was at risk to themselves or others, just so you know, as part of safeguarding, we would tell that employee that we're going to share with the relevant external party. So I'm talking emergency services, health professionals, not the employer. Some of my employers that have public-facing employees or drive large vehicles, for example, they do ask, well, how can I mitigate that risk if you felt that they were a risk to others? And all it means is that when we share with the health professionals or the emergency services that there is a risk, where it's relevant, it will include the details of the employment. Still not going back to the employer. It's all done on the same day. Hope that's not too much small print, but it gets asked a lot, so I thought I'd tell you. I know it's confidential, but I will provide an employer with their numbers, their figures, how many people are using the service, unless the employer is tiny. If it's a very small organisation, and I think we could possibly deduce who in that office is using the service, I'll just let you know that it's being used. So now I said mental health professional. I haven't given you their full title for good reason. It's vocational rehabilitation consultant. That's their full title. We do shorten that to VRC, and you'll be pleased to know that it's more than the 4 faces that you can see there. We have those mental health professionals go across England, Scotland, and Wales. That's where the service is delivered. Now, of course, some of the organisations that I'm working with do have employees in other parts of the UK, and where they are embedding the service, I do support them to share similar support in their region. So if you're thinking, actually, this sounds great, but I know that we've got some people that work for us in Ireland or whatever, when you reach out to me, I can support so that everyone's getting some support at the same time. But Able Futures is just delivered in England, Scotland, and Wales, so it's for people who live there. The other thing to mention about the VRCs, just before I move on, is that they are mental health professionals for a reason. It's not just a minimum qualification. The context of the relationship that a person has with them for the 9 months is practical. So it's skill building and building new skills like muscles. I say that quite a bit. But if that person did need clinical support, they are going to be able to advocate for them. So I asked, what does that mean? What do they actually do? I mentioned that with consent, they can get on the phone to the GP. They have also written reports that can lead a person to get a diagnosis that they might have long since suspected that they needed. So they can write reports and tell me they write a lot of GP letters and things like that. So the support is practical, but if a person really did need it, then do know they'll have a weighty mental health professional in their corner. One of the examples I heard not so long ago that I particularly liked was that a person's mental health was being impacted by their housing situation, and their VRC had been able to write an effective report that meant that they were reprioritised. Just an example. By the way, I can't see the chat, so if there are any questions, let me know, but hopefully I'm going to cover everything that you might ask before we get to the end. So the support is underpinned by a support plan, and that's just a document really, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to point out to you. The first is that these bullet points that you can see here at the bottom is just a tiny handful of some of the things that people use the support for. But no 2 support plans are the same. As I mentioned, we will be supporting someone who's very junior in their career right up to senior management and business owners. So it's tailored and appropriate, but everyone starts with the Warwick, Edinburgh Mental Wellbeing Scale. You might have heard of that previously. It's an assessment really to see where you're at. How anxious are you, for example? Everyone starts with that. And then not everyone learns and works in the same way. So it's about us understanding what have you got on your plate, what can you manage, and how do you like to take in information. Some people are quite practical and hands-on. Some people want everything in an email, or they like a workbook. A lot of people feedback that they do like the kind of mental health theory side of it. Sometimes for the first time ever, they're understanding, oh, the reason that I feel like this, when I have lots of stuff going on, is according to psychologists because of that. So it's tailored. We need to understand how you like to learn, and some of that might be trial and error. For example, mindfulness is not for everyone. It's got to be tailored. I wanted to, just before I move on, bring to life for you some examples of using the service, because I can appreciate, I've said it's mental health support, but it's not counselling. We've got counsellors working for us. I want to give you some examples. So I often describe the service as being 2-pronged, so in 2 areas. The first being, what's on your plate? What is causing that impact? Let's look at removing that negative impact, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be work related. It might be that you have a finance issue, or that you don't know what's causing you to feel stressed, but the VRC will address that. The other prong, the other side of the support, is for 9 months, we need to look at, right, how does that manifest in you? What does that cause symptomatically, if you like? So If it is time management, if it is that when you've got lots of stuff going on or you've got issues at home, whatever, that causes your time management to drop. And I use that as an example because often that's one of the first things to go. People feel like they've got 100 tasks on instead of 10, or they might be late to meetings, incomplete work, whatever. The VRC's role is to not only address what's causing that, but for 9 months to build that automatic time management coping skills built in like a new muscle, so that when something comes up in, let's say, 3 years' time that would normally cause them to feel overwhelmed or to spiral, they've got new skills and behaviours that are kicking in like a reflex. It's not effort, they don't have to draw upon it. So they spend 9 months building it with a health professional, mental professional. The same can be applied, I won't go through everything, but if we just have a look at, for example, anger management there in the bottom left, or assertiveness at the top in the middle column, if that's how mental health manifests in yourself, so if you can be snappy with your team members, or if your confidence drops and you're not assertive, over 9 months, and it might be multiple things, you work to build that new skill in. And the reason I use the phrase like muscles quite a bit is because I quite like the comparison of, if you were working with a personal trainer for 9 months, you'd expect to see some improvements in your body, in your stamina. You know, they might signpost you to a nutritionist, or they might refer you to a class, but ultimately you'd expect to see some change, and you want that to be lifelong. Same thing, but for mental health. I feel that you get that, so I am going to move on. But it's worth me mentioning that if you or your employees have access to an employee assistance program or any existing wellbeing support, for example, this doesn't replace that, it complements it. So we see anything that you already apply to your employees or that you have access to as a key resource. We're going to drive the use of that. We're going to make sure that when the 9 months is finished, they know, oh, I'm starting to feel like that. These are the symptoms. I know I can go and use that resource. So people often ask, well, what's the difference between an employee assistance program and Able Futures? The difference is a 9-month relationship to build those tailored coping strategies. Hope that makes sense. So the eligibility is my favourite things about the service because it's so inclusive. A person would just need to be age 16 and over on minimum wage for their age group. So therefore, that is your apprentices, it's people who are maybe agency temps or contractors, self-employed, part-time workers, the list goes on. And that includes the partners and family members age 16 or over of your employees. So I really do encourage people to share this with your loved ones nice and early. Just as soon as you go home, just you don't have to go into as much detail at all. You could do no wrong in sharing this information. Just give them the info on the next slide that I'm going to show you, and then leave that with them so that when they need it, they don't have to come back to you and say, do you remember that mental health support? Have you got the number? Share it with them. One of the questions we do ask when going through the criteria, and this is why I'm very pleased to be able to speak directly to you, is we do ask if the person can acknowledge that if they didn't get any support whatsoever for the things that are playing on their mind, that they might not necessarily every day thrive in work and business. Now, I've been deliberately loose with that wording. In fact, I don't actually think that's the exact words that we ask. But you understand, if a person's reached out to a service and we're saying, does it affect you at work? I want you to know, first of all, that that's confidential. You know, we're not going back to their employer or anything like that. But you know that I've told you it's funded by the Department of Work and Pensions so that people can thrive at work, where we spend most of our time, and it supports the employer, it supports the economy. For example, spending less on things like sickness benefits from time off due to mental health or unemployment benefits, etc. It doesn't have to be that that person is absolutely struggling at work all the time, but I did want to give you a couple of examples because I wouldn't want for a person to reach out and hear that question and think, no, that doesn't apply to me. Here's my 2 examples. If your sleep is sometimes impacted, well, if you're not getting your 8 hours every night, you're very unlikely to be completely on it the next day at work and completely safe and all guns blazing. So that's enough if your sleep is impacted. Or if you have, and I've used this phrase quite a few times, something on your mind. That's on a lot of our posters, because if you've got things that are playing on your mind, don't we all, you're very unlikely to be every day thriving at work, writing strategies, you know, opening new divisions and smashing it all the time. We're not like that as humans anyway, but that's enough. I just wanted to let you know that that's part of the criteria. Keeping an eye on time, walk you through the map. Now, this is quite self-explanatory, and this is quite useful if you're ever telling anyone about the service. Because this is employee driven, You don't have to hold their hand and refer to them. A lot of managers that know about Able Futures use this as part of their one-to-ones. They might identify when they can suggest support to people, but it's employee driven. So telling them that this exists is enough. That's your job done. However, I want to point out a couple of things that are useful to note. The first is that to apply, you go online or you call that number. Don't worry about remembering this detail, but it's free phone, open from Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. So at any point during that time, they can call and speak to us. When you are with Able Futures, we do have numbers that you can reach out of hours if you did need support, but that's just for referral. And if they go online, which of course you can do anytime, you get a text back the same day that says, we know you need support, we're going to give you a call. Where it says, are they eligible? No. People often ask, what makes a person not eligible and what do you do about it? It's the things that I've been a bit repetitive about. So if a person is in a crisis, or if they are adamant that they only want counselling, if they are not in any form of work whatsoever, and some other things. But the good news is we don't close the door in their face. We've got a duty of care. So if they're in a crisis, of course, we're going to safeguard them. If they're not in a crisis, but it's not right support for them, we're going to signpost them to the right support. And really importantly, they've reached out to a no-cost service. So we need to make sure we signpost them to the right support. So you are not expected to remember all of the information I gave you in order to tell your people about this. But my role is to embed the service for you so that your people do understand when it's suitable. On the right-hand side, you can see those steps. The only thing I want to mention really, well, a couple of things, is that where it says video call, that's not mandatory, but I really do recommend it. So the support is provided by the phone and we'll share email resource. The video calls are via Microsoft Teams only, because that's the only platform that the DWP will approve of for encryption purposes and things like that. However, I always tell employers, please don't panic if you think, well, we don't use Teams, or people I want to share it with might not have laptops, etc. This is not a person logging on at the beginning of their shift. This is separate from work. Normally it's once a month, sometimes fortnightly, but it's normally monthly those meetings happen. And the video calls, as you can see, is at the beginning and the end, and the person is going to be on their personal phone or their personal laptop, and we can support them to download Teams. We're not going to assume they're tech savvy, okay? So it's not something that you need to worry about. We will manage that. And I always encourage people that we do get a lot of feedback after month 1, month 2, that the thing that was causing the distress had been removed, and that's fantastic. But though the service is not mandatory, the 9 months is there for a reason. Even on the good days, use that support to thrive. I've never come across a publicly funded service that people can use to build their emotional intelligence and their resilience and their ability to be a better business person and thrive in their careers. Normally, I've only known of HR paying for that for their future leaders and investing in certain people to help the company grow. So the fact that everyone can access it, I really do want to bring that to life for you and your people to use the service now. So if you are an employer, here's the things that I will provide for you. They are everything you need really to, your people can already access the service, nothing to sign, they can already access it if you would share this with them, but I do provide a toolkit for mental health. For some employers, they already have everything in abundance that's in this toolkit. For some, that can form the basis of their wellbeing strategy. Mental health education and awareness sessions at no cost, there's no cost for any of these things, we provide on particular subjects, and they're normally live webinars. Sometimes I can deliver them or record them, and they're on topics that people have told us is pertinent. So coping with change, self-care, work-life balance, the list goes on. Promo materials, the launch pack has everything that you would need, as I mentioned, like the posters, digital comms, and I can tailor them so that your people can see their identities and their roles reflected in those materials. And lastly, and here's where I really remember thinking, how did I not know that this exists? At no cost, of course, you can have support with making those adjustments and planning your responses to your employees. So all you'd need to do is reach out to me as your business account manager, and it might be for one hypothetical person or for a whole department, the whole organisation. Those questions you've got around how do I support, I will put you in touch with the appropriate VRC. I think eventually you'll build your own relationship with them and they get to know you and your business. I'm not precious about that. I think that's great. But they'll be able to support what can you morally, legally, ethically do to be able to support. And that's at no cost. So I really do encourage people to make this a part of your strategy. And on that note, just before I finish up and take questions, my biggest takeaway since I joined Able Futures last year, apart from the fact that there's this hidden gem and I want to tell everyone about it, has been the difference in uptake and the benefit to the organisation when it's shared as part of what I refer to as HR business as usual, HR BAU versus optional wellbeing comms. And by that, I mean embedding it as part of the service. So every department has a quick intro, or everyone hears about it and watches the video as part of their induction. That is so much more beneficial for employers than just sharing it as an email that no one clicks on anyway, or just putting up a poster and people think, oh, mental health. You know, I'm senior, of course I'm meant to feel this way, or I've got a lot going on, of course I'm going to struggle. When we get in not as much detail as I've given you, but in a more concise little snippet to them, there's a lot better uptake. So I will be happy to do that for yourself and for your employees and those you work with as many times as needed. So are there any questions? And I won't be offended if there aren't, by the way, it just means that I've been thorough and spoken at you for far too long.
Thanks, Koreen.
No problem.
There's nothing that's come through on the chat bar.
That's okay. I'm going to share the slides as well in the chat, as I mentioned. Bear with me there and I'll pop it through before we go to networking.
Thank you.
Frequently asked questions that I thought it would just be useful for me to mention to you. By the way, I'm sharing my details, so you can take questions offline. Don't worry if my details aren't on that file. So they're in the, you can ask me confidential questions offline. People often ask what happens if a person leaves their job, etc. Just so you know, the 9-month clock doesn't stop, but we do have a 3-month extension window, and that's not just for leaving your job. It might be that you've had a trauma, or your VRC has gone on maternity, so you've had to build a new relationship or something like that. The good news is that you can re-refer yourself if you didn't find work within that 9 months, 12 months if extended. And we deliver, in addition to this, a lot of employability across the UK. So the employers have no cost recruitment from us, and they share their vacancies. So we can help you get back into work if you want, but you can re-refer in the next year. Hopefully you don't need to know that, but I thought it could be useful. And lastly, the other thing that comes up sometimes is, what if I have an existing mental health condition? The reason it's not on our posters and we don't go out of the way to talk about it is we don't want people to overthink it. We don't want to say, well, if you've got bipolar, then do apply, or if you've got ADHD, then don't. But it's on a case-by-case basis. I'm happy to tell you that if someone did have really complex needs or did have a diagnosis but wasn't receiving any support for it, they might not thrive using Able Futures. But because it's delivered by a mental health professional, they're going to be in a really good position to make that call and to be able to support them to, whether it's get back on medication or let's liaise with your health team. But it's not for complex needs, it's about building those practical skills to cope. Hopefully that makes sense and is useful, but I appreciate you taking the time to listen to all of that I threw at you today.
No, thank you, Koreen. I mean, I certainly found it really informative, and yeah, it just sounds like an amazing service. It's like, you kind of think like, where's the catch, and there just isn't one. It's phenomenal. I know we have got a question. I think Flipper, have you got your hand up? Did you want to jump in?
I have, yeah. Thanks, Koreen. Such a fantastic presentation. I think I met with your colleague Francis yesterday. My name's Flipper. I work for Live Well South West, and I am the team lead for the new employment service, and it's called IPS, which is Individual Placement Support, which you'll obviously know quite a lot about. So in terms of more complex needs, we are available to support people that have got more complex needs. We sit within the community mental health services and support people with severe and enduring mental health problems if they're in work, but also to get work. So we would complement each other and our services really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've only just started working with some of the IPS services in the South East, so hopefully we'll eventually get round to all of them. Yeah, really good compliment to the service.
Yeah, really good.
Thanks, Flipper, and thanks, Koreen. Anyone other questions? I know we've not had anything in the chat bar. Anyone else want to ask anything? I know Charlie's also added a number of different bits of information to the chat bar as well that you guys can kind of click on, and the Able Futures leaflet, etc. I mean, I know that Plymouth City Council have been working with Able Futures and have been using it for a little while now. I don't know whether there's anyone on the call from Plymouth City Council that maybe might want to just share, their experiences of that kind of service. I don't know whether there's anyone on. I can't see any names in the box that I've got there.
Hi Craig, it's Gemma. Yeah.
Oh, hi Gemma.
Hi.
How are you? All right.
Yeah, I'm exhausted today, so hence I didn't put my camera on.
Bless you.
I'm listening intently. Thank you, Koreen. That was really useful. We have one of your colleagues attend, as I've put in the chat, our wellbeing drop-in session on Monday, and did exactly the similar presentation to explain how it works. And we use it quite heavily at work now. Our experience of it is the quick turnaround is really helpful, and the length of time that the support is available for. Our EAP service has its place and is brilliant, but we can only have up to about 6 sessions with EAP. So I think the whole support around it being 9 months is the really useful part for us. So it's definitely part of our integral wellbeing offer to our employees. So yeah, thank you. Appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gemma. Any other questions? I mean, I had a few questions. Sorry, Koreen. But I just want to make sure I don't jump in before anyone else, really. I mean, some of the questions I was jotting down as you were going through the presentation, you then did go on and answer, which was amazing. I suppose some larger organisations would have what we generally know as like an employee assist programme. So are you able to sort of distinguish the difference? I mean, you kind of did to an extent, but yeah, what would you say is the biggest difference between like an employee assist programme?
I heard it explained quite well as that that the EAP and the counselling that it provides can look at the kind of the length and depth of the person. So in counselling, where did that come from in childhood? What is going on with you? And that we kind of look at the width and the breadth. So based on those things that are going on, what are the symptoms? And let's build some practical skills to support that. So where an EAP is in place, that's going to be our go-to resource. It's really useful when the EAP is aware of Able Futures. We're always happy to give them a short session, because then when, let's say, someone does come to the end of their 6 sessions of counselling, they can signpost them to Able Futures, or at least make sure they know about it, because we do the same for them. If we feel that they did need counselling, sure, the VRC is able to support them to get counselling, but if it's already there, we're going to drive the use. The difference being that I refer to the EAP as being the resource. So if you've got a finance issue or need counselling, and there's a lot of other things that EAPs can do as well, that's a resource. But Able Futures is a 9-month relationship. That's the key thing, with a mental health professional. And it's the same mental health professional, unless, as I gave the example of going on maternity, it's the same person. And the focus is on building their practical skills and their behaviours. It's not a clinical service. It's much more build practical skills that stay with them for life, because you've had this 9-month relationship to build it, which sometimes that takes some explaining to employees. If they have a lot of wellbeing resource available to them, it all just sounds like mental health. So it's useful to be able to differentiate between the two. It's a relationship to build practical skills, whereas the EAP is the resource, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. That's brilliant. And hopefully that might help a few others if they were thinking similar things. But no, brilliant, really brilliant. Any other thoughts or questions from people? Okay.
I was going to ask Gemma, who came along to the champ drop-in. Any name I might recognise?
Yeah, let me find it. It was the lady from Wales. That's what I want to say. She had a lovely
yes, via Case UK.
Yes.
So in this, I try not to overload you with information, because I know I already gave you a lot, but in the southwest and in Wales, we have exactly the same service, but delivered by our supply chain, which is called Case UK. So it's all the same VRCs, Able Futures, etc.
Yeah, it was Sharon Jones.
Yeah.
Just had to look.
Real.
I think another aspect I would say is that from our perspective, the employees have said, similar to what you've just mentioned, Koreen, the difference between the EAP and Able Futures is Able Futures has enabled them to cope in the working environment. So it almost does that kind of preventative measure prior to a crisis, which has been really supportive and helpful for our employees that are struggling, rather than that kind of intense clinical intervention. So yeah, that's how I kind of explain it to our employees. Definitely.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. By the
Thanks.
way, if you were to use the service yourself, anyone on the Zoom now, you're just a 6-digit participant number to me. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but I have the stats I provide to employers in terms of the use of the service, but nothing beyond that. So you're just a 6-digit participant number, and I'd put everyone on it if I could. I mean, who couldn't do with improving their mental health and their emotional intelligence? But I do like, I know that the DWP is really pernickety with their wording. So you'll notice that I don't say free, I say no cost. And I don't say training, it's mental health education and awareness, but I do like that word preventative. Even though you must be able to identify that you need the support in some way, absolutely, nice and early on, I agree with that 100%.
And we have got a question in the chat bar from Leah. How often are people contacted over the 9-month period, roughly?
Usually monthly, sometimes fortnightly, but definitely not weekly. If a person needed weekly support, we'd need to look at, do they need crisis support or clinical support? Normally once a month. And they can arrange to call and email their VRC in between. But I've seen their diaries, and so it's not, I want to use the word not reliable. I wouldn't want a person to rely upon needing to call and email someone in between that time. So it's normally monthly and arrange to call and email if needed in between.
Brilliant. Thanks, Koreen. And yeah, thanks for the question, Leah. Okay. It sounds like we've kind of not necessarily got any other questions related to the presentation, but again, just a big thanks to you, Koreen, for coming along and sharing that information with us all. I mean, it just sounds like a really, really good offer for any organization to sort of raise awareness amongst their group. Like I say, they don't need to sign up. It's just really about sharing that information across your organization, so people know that they've got an additional support kind of like point to go to, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One final question from me, I suppose, related to the pandemic, and I think everyone's aware now that over the last 18 months we've seen an increase in stress and people maybe suffering from poor mental health because of the COVID-19. Have you noticed an increase in people using Able Futures because of that? Have you seen an increase in people talking about stress and depression and anxiety?
Yeah, so there was I joined just a couple of months after people will have been working from home, etc. And I'd asked, how had that been for you guys over the last couple of months? Did you really peak? And actually there was a drop off. And from the VRCs having those conversations with the people that were already on the programme, a lot of that was because the working environment that was necessary was sometimes causing or impacting what was already going on wasn't a thing anymore because they were working from home. I know working from home isn't for everyone, but for quite a few people, it makes a large difference. So there was a dip. And then we do have what I have now come to see as seasonal peaks and troughs, which a lot of organisations and sectors have, whereas everything seems more manageable around Christmas. And then come January, February, it's dire and you remember that you did like a job or whatever. So we do have seasonal peaks and troughs. Different sectors I've noticed have been impacted in a lots of different ways. And that sounds quite obvious, but I have seen with each governmental change, use go up and go down depending on how different sectors are having to respond. So it goes without saying really, but in care and in education, we've seen rises and just needed to be able to respond to that. And who knows what we might need to do moving forward, but I have been quite impressed at how the VRCs respond to that. So one of my favourite was the off-the-shelf homeschool impacts for people who were already struggling with their mental health that they had put together. Yeah, I would say that you can see peaks and troughs with the different changes of COVID, but it's the sectors that are affected so differently that no one size fits all.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Right, any final questions for Koreen? Brilliant. So it's 5 to 11, so we have still got half an hour left. I'm thinking what we might do is just take a short break. So if we kind of come back, say just after 11 o'clock, and then we've just got an opportunity to share a bit of best practice, focus down into a little bit of maybe some of the challenges you've all been facing around staff well-being and specifically mental well-being. And then we might be able to bring a few kind of ideas to the table and discuss some solutions as well. But yeah, if we have a, say, 5-minute break, so we come back at, say, 2 minutes past 11, and then we've got 20-25 minutes just to have a bit of a sort of networking opportunity. All right, all.
Lovely, thanks.
Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to get up, stretch your legs, step away from the desk or the dinner table or wherever you happen to be based today, and grabbed a drink. Obviously, always important that we kind of practice what we preach a little bit. And certainly my experience, obviously, of working from home, certainly a lot more than I used to, is sometimes I'm not very good at getting up and taking a walk or something. So those little opportunities in between our MS Teams meetings and stuff, we've got to make the most of them. So yeah, we've got just a kind of under 30 minutes left of the session kind of set aside. Obviously, if we need to, we can finish early and you can get another bit of time back to go and stretch your legs. But this is the part of the session when really it's about over to you guys and sharing a bit of best practice, talking about maybe some of the challenges that you face within your organizations around supporting your staff, mental well-being, those sorts of things. We have got Ali Crane with us today, another member of our team. Ali is one of our kind of very experienced sort of well-being trainers and comes with a wealth of experience around sort of delivering those sessions. She also happens to be one of our well-being champions and does so many amazing things for our own team to keep us all kind of well and sane. So she may at times this morning, sorry, kind of chip in with some insights and some sort of ideas. So again, it's also kind of using some of Ali's insight if you've got any questions or thoughts. But yeah, it's really over to you guys. Has anyone got any kind of questions they wanted to ask today? Anyone got any challenges they're currently facing around staff wellbeing and specifically mental health? Feel free to either pop your hand up or pop the question in the chat bar.
Greg, I wondered if it was worth maybe just talking about the new emotional resilience course that we are going to be offering soon, and just about the sort of coping skills and things, the useful sort of practical qualities that the training scheme offers.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. And I don't know, Ali, whether you'd be happy to bring you in and talk a little about the new course, Emotional Resilience. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. Good morning, everybody. So for mental health, you'll see 4 and M and H, and that stands for mental health, and you'll see that across our material in the next couple of months. It's run by For Mental Health, and we were asked by Public Health to deliver this training. And ironically, it was around that COVID time that they saw the increase of mental health across the city. So we've taken it on board. It's a 3-hour online course. And the selling point, I think, is that emotional resilience is designed for all. Okay, it's a self-care course to increase our ability to cope with emotional distress or stressful life events. So the idea of the workshop is that the delegates develop an understanding of well-being and resilience, and they start to design and build their own personal plan to be able to sort of take away with themselves. And I think that's kind of in a nutshell, really. It sits very well within the Wellbeing Champion package. It's free, and currently we are offering it online, but we are looking at face-to-face delivery if that's what communities and businesses need in the future.
Thank you, Ali. Yeah, and I think something that I'd like to kind of add, and you mentioned it, is it's being incorporated as part of our Wellbeing Champions package, because there's that acknowledgement that if people are kind of putting their hand up and saying, yeah, I'd like to be a wellbeing champion, it's important that they can stay well, you know, in order to look after other people. And yeah, I think, like Ali said, it's an excellent sort of practical training package that will give people those skills to be able to manage their own well-being, which then helps them to look after other people. But no, thanks, Ali.
Great. We've got some things coming in the chat bar now. So we have Gemma, who says we have a reoccurring theme around motivation for our workforce. If anybody has any tips around motivation.
Gemma, is this about sort of their motivation sort of like waning a little bit and looking at ways to keep them motivated?
Yeah, I think with the impact of COVID, the working from home, we had the Kiam incident, business as usual, things reopening. It's a combination of lack of motivation and also burnout. I think we're all aware of what we need to do for burnout. There's some practical things we can support employees with, but that coming back to work and that lack of energy is something I'm struggling, because initially, when we were working, for example, at Ballard House, myself included, I'd go up and down 3-4 flights of stairs a couple of times a day, and that would wake me up, that would keep me moving, that would keep me motivated. So when you said earlier, Greg, about getting up from your seat, that's something I do, but a lot of our workforce are finding it hard to fit physical time in, time to do physical activity, or getting the motivation to do it. There is this kind of Zoom fatigue, PC fatigue of just sitting in front of your computer for hours at a time. And that's something we're really struggling with across the organisation, is to motivate people and keep them engaged. So we're doing the general stuff of, having meetings where it's not, work focused and trying to catch up about animals, children, random stuff like that to keep the conversations going. But I just wondered if there's anything else anybody else is doing that I'm missing out on.
Do you know, I've been using this. It's a really basic app, but it's the one that was recommended, Active 10. And all it does is you try and walk briskly for 10 minutes every day. But what's really fascinating is some days you look at it and think, oh my God, I literally haven't done it. So you might have not carried your phone with you, but I think it's that thing of just, it sort of increases that mindfulness. And also it makes you keep checking back and going, wow, I haven't done that today. Or look at this week. So sometimes you might have a really good week and then it's not so good. So it sort of keeps you, and I'm not a happy person, but it sort of keeps me motivated and so it helps me monitor it. Because I think we're so in our heads with all the things we're trying to do that we sort of forget about ourselves. And it's sort of one way of bringing you back to yourself and going, oh, have I done that for me today? No, I haven't. Okay, so how am I going to get that bit of walking in? So then, and as well in our team, our manager's really good in just allowing yourself permission. So like Greg said, if we finish a bit early, not going, I finished 10 minutes early, right now, what else can I cram into that 10 minutes that I wouldn't have otherwise had? It's like, right, well, now I've got 10 minutes, I'm going to go for a walk on the block. I have permission to do that. And I think when managers give that permission explicitly, I think that can help as well.
Thank you, Gemma. Thank you. I'll have a look at that.
There was something that came up in our team meeting the other day, and I think I'm also someone who gets stuck into their computer where I realise that hours has gone. So I didn't necessarily resonate with this, but it came up about having things to look forward to, and some people were really almost offended that Christmas hadn't been yet planned or spoken about. And I can relate on that. I always need to have something to look forward to, like a holiday or something like that. And of course, we couldn't do that last year. And I think I would have felt demotivated had it not been that there's bigger fish to fry in the world. So this isn't like a clinical opinion. I'm not a mental health professional or anything, but I thought I'd just share that. I've had a lot of people chat in meetings recently about when are we going to start talking about Christmas and something nice to look forward to. And yeah, they were speaking about that quite a bit. So I thought I'd share.
I think
I think that's a really good point, actually, because I've only just started introducing those things where we come together, like book clubs and sort of escape rooms and all that. And all of a sudden the emails are starting, so they're looking for that togetherness, coming away from that screen and doing something, maybe some things outside of work, but some things that are within our lunchtime, but totally not work related, but where we can have that social and sort of, impact, I think, really. Yeah. So just finding those things that maybe don't take longer than half an hour, so book club's
going down quite well. That's a really good idea. That even for people that didn't think they would have gone to a book club, some people hadn't actually read all of the book or any of it.
But it doesn't matter. Yeah, I've said that in the email. Even if you don't get to read it, just come along. Let's just talk. So it's just something different, something to focus on.
One thing that our team does, I work in Cornwall, and we talk about Netflix, good ones that we've seen. So again, for people that feel they don't have the time to consume a book, everyone tends to sit, well, not everyone, but you can sit down chill out, watch a film, and then give top tips for things that they've watched over the weekend. Again, not talking about work. I know sometimes people talk about wanting quizzes, but I don't know about you guys, but we're on this machine so much on virtual meetings. It's nice to have a break and not be doing quizzes online. But
what are you recommending?
I've been
on Netflix
supporting
at the moment,
people
Maureen?
on the pilot. Pardon?
What are you recommending on Netflix at the moment?
What have I watched recently? I watched a film actually last night called Once, and it's an old film about a busker in Dublin who gets friendly with someone who's an immigrant into the country from Czechoslovakia, I think. And it's a really gentle film, art-based. I like music, so yeah, really good.
Called Once,
really
did
good.
you say?
I was just going to share that I've been running a pilot project in Cornwall, working to support the care providers through Cornwall Council, through inviting them if they wanted to be involved in the pilot. And it's just come to an end. And certainly what I've found is that the care providers who are exhausted and feeling overwhelmed weren't giving themselves permission to self-care. And that's one of the overwhelming things that have come out of the work. They're not actually feeling that when they're working from home, they can have breaks. They're very conscientious. Many of the people who are out doing the domiciliary care work, they're rushing around and they're just not looking after themselves. They're exhausted. So yeah, that's something I think we can encourage everyone to look after themselves, and it's like pouring from a full cup. Make sure your cup's full rather than trying to help others with an empty cup. Yeah, really interesting. I just thought I'd share that.
The other thing I do, so I've got 4 different jobs, but in one of my other jobs, I work with quite a lot of people with ADHD. I'm a counsellor as well. And one of the things we've started doing together is making like a little menu of things that sort of are good for you. So they write their own prescription. So it's like, because I say the little things are the big things. So the more little things we do, the better we feel. So we've sort of worked on that together, and that's been really useful. So it might just be the smallest little thing, but it's introducing that little bit and often. And then after time, it becomes more embedded. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I feel like I've had a bit of space for me. I feel like I've done these nice things for me. So, yeah, we've sort of done little prescriptions for ourselves of just really little things, but actually the little things end up being the big things. So that's just another random thing I've been doing.
That's brilliant, Gemma, because I think the more things that we have in our box, the more things we can access, because not one thing always fixes all, does it? So if you've got a box full of things, you can just grab all sorts, can't you? And that emotional resilience workshop looks at that. It actually develops that plan to actually go through the specific things. What can I do when I feel like this? Who do I call when I feel like this? And that really just gives you that robust sort of toolkit, really. So
and sometimes we call it the serotonin menu, but what we do as well is we do them in time blocks. So one of my people I work with, they like having it written down and they can take it out like a lucky dip. But what they've done is they've done them as different colours, because they know if they've only got 10 minutes, there's no point in them pulling something out where they're going to design something, because they haven't got time to do that. And then they're going to feel a bit like flat. So we look at how long something would realistically take, so that they still feel like that they're getting the benefit from it. And that's been really helpful with quite a lot of people I'm working with. So
that's fabulous.
Thanks, everyone. Anything from the chat bar, Jenny?
Yes, I think Scott Young had a question.
Oh, hi, Scott. How are you?
Hi, everyone. Sorry I didn't make the first half, but I got I had a meeting I had to be in. It's no innocent bystanders, it's all about culture change and stuff, but it was good, so that's helpful. So just a quick one: is there going to be a recording? Because I was hoping to listen to the Able Futures part.
Yeah,
so there's going to be a recording,
Scott. Yeah, you can.
Right.
Back.
Yeah. That wasn't my question, and I don't really have a question actually. It's more of a thank you and a statement. Right. So the 12th of August, we all sort of experienced, that tragic shooting event, and it had quite a close to home experience for me, which was, obviously the employee that worked with us was the perpetrator. But that's not the point I want to focus on. I want to focus on something else, which was on the Monday morning when I got back into work, I had lots of offers of help. So I'm going to call out a couple of them. Gemma, that works at Plymouth City Council, she emailed and got in touch and said, right, okay, so I reckon you're in the middle of something right now. If there's anything I can do, please reach out. So that was lovely. But we also got one from mental health first aiders. I didn't mean to make you cry. I've actually got a lump in my throat thinking about it because it was just lovely. Mental health first aiders that were based up in HMS Sultan in Hampshire, who worked for Babcock, didn't know our situation. So they didn't know, do we have an health and wellbeing provision? We don't know. So they just reached out and said, look, we don't know what your situation's like. If we can help, please let us know. So whether it's, somebody wants to talk to someone that's removed from it, because even though you have mental health first aiders on site, they're experiencing it as well as trying to help, which is what you talked about there. You can't pour from an empty cup sort of thing. So out of what is a horrible situation, there came a lot of help and love and support and stuff like that. And even a silly little thing like I emailed the people that emailed me the offer, I emailed them back to say, do you know what, you made a massive difference today, and I was lucky enough to be able to tell them how they made a difference, because I told my mental health first aiders about it, who said, isn't that lovely that they thought of us in that? So they felt good about it. We felt more empowered about being able to do something, but also I responded to the people that offered, and one of them had a really crap day at work that day, and they said, do you know what, I was going to pack it all in today, and I've come home to this email, which has made all the difference. So it's just reaching out and helping people and being kind. And so this is where the motivation comes from sometimes. And it sort of alludes to what Gemma's asking about and talking about. Sometimes it's just incidental. Sometimes it's just knowing that someone else cares as well, so it helps you pour from your own cup, knowing that you're not alone, sort of thing. So I think this sort of group of wellbeing advisors, wellbeing champions, knowing that we've got all these things in our pocket, that helps. So it's being reminded of that. So, don't think about reaching out, just reach out, because it really does make a difference to people's lives. Because that Monday morning, it motivated me and helped me. So thank you. And also, well done, Gemma, because you won the September challenge, because you were higher in the rankings than we were at Babcock Devonport. And the only other thing I could think of saying was we've started, because we're starting to meet up on site a little bit more, having walking meetings where possible. So even if obviously Zoom fatigue and stuff like that, even if you can go for a walk and you've got a work mobile phone, if you can actually, do you know what, I don't need my computer for this, so I'm going to go for a walk for this meeting, just to get you outside and stuff. And it's especially important during the winter months, because it might not be so easy before work or after work, because I always do my fake commutes. But in the dark and in the wet, it's not so much fun. So, try and pick a gap where you can actually do it, and you might be able to. But that was it. Thank you. You're all lovely. And it was all really it was a nice experience.
Thank you, Scott. No, you're quite right. And I suppose a lot of things you're talking about, linking with what others have said, those little things that make such a big difference. Just an email can sort of, make what maybe was going to be quite a difficult morning all of a sudden, feel achievable again. And I suppose that whole conversation, a few other things I've jotted down, is about, getting into good habits. Yes, we've maybe got into the habit of just MS Teams overload and Zoom overload. So let's try and change those habits. Let's make sure we've got those habits of taking little breaks here and there, getting up, going for a walk, like Gemma was saying. And I think someone mentioned permission. If you're a manager, or if you can influence managers, what can we do about allowing them to say to their staff, yes, take 10 minutes here. Yes, go and, give yourself a break at that point. Lead by example. It can make such a big difference. Because I think generally everyone out there, I think Maureen was saying, people are conscientious, and people are, focused on what they need to do, and sometimes that leads them down this maybe slight trap of sort of, oh my god, I've got to be at my laptop from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, whatever they're working. And that's not the case. We're not designed to sit down for that long. We should be getting up and moving around. I know the chat bar's lots going on there, Jenny. Is there anything that...
Yep, we've got quite a few Netflix recommendations. I have one
Excellent.
myself, but only if you like sort of crime Scandi dramas. If you don't, it's not for you. But The Chestnut Man, but it's quite disturbing, so I wouldn't watch it if you don't like that sort of thing.
Thanks, Jenny.
So we've got Mark, who is commenting that he's struggling with staff engagement. We have service champions, but the interest seems to have dropped off. Any advice with reigniting interest and involvement?
Any ideas from people? I mean, I suppose a lot of the stuff we've been maybe already talking about.
So specifically with the reigniting sort of interest with the champions, I know we've got a lot of things planned. Yeah,
I mean, I suppose what we were talking about earlier with regards to the sort of new training offer, certainly, we could get in contact with myself, Charlie, or Ali, and we could sort of share some information about what that looks like, and that might sort of, I guess, get people a bit more interested compared to maybe they were in the past. Charlie, Ali, any other thoughts that we could, to try and increase staff engagement in becoming champions?
I don't know what a service champion is, so I don't know if they've gone through our training or not, but if they are wanting to be wellbeing champions, as we call them, then probably putting them onto our new training offer that we've got coming up would be really useful. We've completely revamped the whole thing. So to be fair, this might be for everyone, but yeah, we've completely revamped the whole thing. So we're now basically the last 18 months, we've looked at what we need to include into the champions and how they can be sort of engaged more after. So in the programme, we've got more training offers. So like for mental health, which Ali spoke about earlier, Connect 5 training. And then we've also got other things other training sessions that we think might be really useful for the champions, like understanding grief and bereavement, because obviously the last 18 months, a lot of people have gone through some stuff. So please please email me. I'll put my email is in the chat, and I'm more than happy to have a meeting and discuss what we can do to offer and help support you there. But engagement and reigniting interest is a common theme at the moment, because I think, as Gemma mentioned, it is getting to that point where we're leading up to Christmas, and I think people are on burnout. So that sort of issue, I think, is among most organisations at the moment, but we are more than happy to help you with some ideas and some processes in which that can support you with.
Thanks, Charlie. Jenny, was there anything else from the chat? I know Gemma's got a hand up as well, so we'll come to you in a bit, Gemma.
Yeah, just some comments and things about some coping mechanisms and things. We've got Sophie, who said she's been struggling going into the winter working from home with the cold and the darkness, and it's felt a bit more lonely at home. But she's joined a very small gym and attending classes, and that's given her something to look forward to at the end of each day. So good to put something into place there. More recommendations on Netflix. I hope everybody's got access to Netflix. So I think we can go to Gemma.
Thanks, Jenny. All right, Gemma.
Yeah, I'm just coming back to the wellbeing champion and the motivation and engagement of those. What we've started doing is, as I've interacted with people during meetings or network meetings across the organisation, if I recognise or identify they'd be great as a champ, I'd kind of call them after the meeting or have a discussion and explain it. And it's a little bit of like pulling them by the ear sometimes, but I actually immediately add them to our champion channel, and I introduce them as trainee wellbeing champion. And that starts that engagement quite quickly, because I think often what happens with things when we implement them in the organisation is it can take a month, 2 months, 6 weeks, whatever, before the training starts, or that's in place, and the person loses interest in that time, or they suddenly decide that actually it's not for them. So I think that quick reactive kind of introducing them as trainee champions and assigning them to do a small piece of champion work has really worked for us. So an example I can give you is a colleague this week has been really struggling, and I knew one of my trainee champs has also had the same situation at home, so I buddied them up and they spent an hour and a half chatting over Teams, both of them getting something out of it, and she feels great that she's helped that person immediately. So that's just something that we're trying out in terms of engagement and motivation, is introducing this kind of trainee champ role as such.
Thanks, Gemma. I mean, that sounds fab. And I suppose we're mindful as well, like I was saying earlier, that, you know, if we've got a bit of a backlog to access the Wellbeing Champions training, I think things like that are actually really sort of applicable. And if you've got existing Wellbeing Champions within your organisation and you want a new one and they've got to wait a few months, we want to keep them. We want to keep them warm. We want to keep them, you know, sort of interested. And if they could spend some time with an existing Wellbeing Champion, that might be a way of bridging that gap a little bit. So no, thank you for sharing that.
Completely. And also anyone that's on my Wellbeing channel will know that I use GIFs a lot of fun welcome signs and a lot of animated things which people seem to enjoy. So that's another little thing that I do.
Fab. Gemma, you got your hand up?
Yeah, it's just a very, very quick one. So, well, I'm Wellbeing Champion for my team. And one of the things we said, we talk about permission and having a break away from the computer. And I was watching everybody when I've met them at different places, and they're all eating their lunch over the laptop. And I'm like, right, we've got to stop this. We've got to stop this. We've got to get away, because like for your physical well-being as well as your mental well-being, it is not good to be sat in front of a laptop eating. So one of the things that we're trying is at least once a week, because some people find this really hard, step away from the computer and go somewhere and eat your lunch properly, like either somewhere quietly or talking to somebody, or if you're at home, going for a walk and then coming home and eating it or something, because it's all encompassing. We forget, and we're just like, and then you're mindlessly eating and just, you know, it's not good for you. So I was just thinking about that as my Wellbeing Champion. That's our target for our team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, thinking organisationally, it's important that, you know, if some people, or you're getting messages that people don't feel they've got somewhere to go to get away from their desk, then it's important that organisations are thinking about, you know, those sorts of safe spaces where people can get up and go and enjoy their, you know, their lunch in either in a separate room, or if it's nice weather, somewhere outside. Again, it's a little thing that can make a big difference. How are we doing for time? We're nearly there. Anything else in the chat bar, Jenny, before we think about finishing?
No, just some compliments, and that everybody's sort of experiencing similar things, and that it is not far off lunchtime now, actually.
We are getting there. People are getting peckish, and we are pretty much at kind of, I think on my laptop, it's just clicked over to 11:30. Is that a legacy hand, Gemma, or is that another? Sorry, bless you. No worries. I just didn't want to make sure I was ignoring you. So, but no, I think we have reached the sort of the end of the session, and I suppose it looks like we might have to add like some sort of Netflix theme to our future sessions, because it's certainly been popular. But thank you to everyone for sharing those experiences and sharing those challenges. It kind of sounds like we're all in a very similar place at the moment, where there is that risk of burnout. There is that risk of sort of, oh my God, every day is just kind of merging into another. We've got this kind of pandemic hangover, but we're kind of still there, and it's still impacting on the way we're living and working. But let's do our best to sort of incorporate some of those good habits, little things regularly, give permission where we can, you know, lead by example, and yeah, make sure you all have a very good rest of the day. Stay in contact with our team if you need any support, if you need any information. Get in touch with myself, Jenny, Charlie, Ali, and you'll get, like I say, an email this afternoon from Olivia at the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce with the evaluation form. So please fill that one out. It helps shape future events. And yeah, just look after yourselves, and we'll see you. If I don't see you before, the next one of these is in the new year. So have a lovely Christmas and a happy new year. And we'll see you all soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good afternoon.
Guys.